TikTok is digital crack. It's too addictive for human consumption, and it's about time people started waking up to that. Imagine all of your memories as a child, running around outside, climbing trees, playing with your friends, doing all of the things a kid should. You know, this is before we'd even heard of social media, when we could get by without a screen because we could just invent a game on the spot. That was enough for us to be happy. And for some of us, that will be the happiest times of our lives. And I don't mean that in a depressing way. No matter how hard it gets when you're older, you'll always have those special memories to look back on. Now imagine if, instead of those happy memories, your entire childhood was spent in front of an iPad, literally glued to it. No playing with toys or making friends, no exploring the outside world, literally just a slave to this brightly coloured screen. And the second your parent tried to take it away from you, you'd have a breakdown. Crying and screaming, just bawling your eyes out until they gave it back to you. Almost like a junkie experiencing withdrawal symptoms. And the disgusting thing is, that's not so hard to imagine, because that's what the younger generation is constantly dealing with right now. Because apps like TikTok have decided to start targeting preschool age kids. Before they can even spell their own name, they know how to work a smartphone and download these apps, and little do they know, develop a lifelong addiction. And the people who run TikTok are just fine with it, because they don't just have control over the kids. They have the parents, the brothers, the sisters, the teachers addicted to their app too. Now if you're watching this, you're probably like me. You know just how bad these social media apps are for our mental health. How they've time and time again been proven to increase our rates of depression, anxiety and loneliness, and just take so much more from us than they give. But even with all that in mind, we still have those mornings where as soon as we wake up, we're reaching to the bedside counter for our phone and spending 2 hours just wasted on those split screen Subway Surfers videos. Now listen bro, I don't blame you for any of that, because these platforms are designed to be so addicting that even a strong-minded individual could waste hours of his life every day just browsing through bullshit. And as part of the detoxing strategy I'll be sharing with you later in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how these platforms addict you so that you can beat them. But I've got to be real with you. If you're someone who has kids or you want a family in the future, you can't afford to be addicted to TikTok anymore. And it is a matter of urgency for you to break those bad habits as soon as you can, because this problem is only getting worse. I don't have kids yet, but I want my children to have those same happy memories that we did when we were younger. I don't want them to grow up depressed and anxious and addicted to screens. But I know that this technology is only going to become more addictive. And if I can't break free of my own addictions, how am I going to be a role model for them? If you can't help yourself, how are you going to help them? So some people naively think that everything you see on TikTok is random. Think about the last time you got stuck in one of those kind of chain reactions of scrolling. You know, you open TikTok for whatever reason, just to pass the time, and you ended up watching 50 videos without even blinking. Now during that session, there would inevitably have been some videos that caught your interest more than others. Some of them you would have stayed to watch till the end, some of them you would have just skipped through. But the thing to note is that those videos that did capture your attention, you would have liked something about them, and they would have released a bit of dopamine into your brain. Now I'm not going to explain in full what dopamine is and does, but essentially it's the reward hormone of the brain. It gives you pleasurable sensations for doing enjoyable things and tries its best to make sure that those things become habits. Now obviously our brightly coloured, constantly changing screens are like dopamine heaven for our brains, mainly because they make it so easy to obtain dopamine. It's like 2 or 3 button presses to open the app. And remember that, because that knowledge is absolutely fundamental to how TikTok works. Because unlike other social media apps where you have to kind of like or follow a particular creator or literally tell the app what you're interested in for them to start showing you content, TikTok bombards you with content right from the get-go. The only thing it needs to determine what you're interested in is for you to watch what you like and skip what you don't. And on the app, that action is as simple as swiping up with your thumb and getting that next hit of dopamine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how TikTok gets hold of you. It incentivizes you to carry on watching and swiping in anticipation of that next hit of dopamine. And this is all while they are very quickly learning a lot about you. And that is all part of the one key mechanism that has allowed TikTok to become the most successful app in history. And that is the TikTok For You algorithm. An algorithm that knows you better than you do yourself. You see, every time you engage with a post on TikTok, you're providing the For You algorithm with vital data. As in, these are the type of videos I like, these are the type of videos I love, and these are the ones that I don't really care for. And because in a typical session, you might watch like 100, 200 videos, that is a lot of data for it to work with. So think of it this way, all of this information you're providing it with is being used to train the algorithm into a more intelligent version of itself. It's effectively being compiled compiled into this digital picture of you and your watch habits. And then once it has the bare minimum amount of information it needs, then it can start tailoring the videos in your feed to show you more of what you're interested in. So that explains why if you watched a certain type of video all the way to the end, you'll immediately start seeing more of that same type of video, because you've literally trained the algorithm to show you more of it. Now, so far this all sounds fairly routine for a social media app. Like, it's not entirely ethical, but it's not scary. Now this is where it gets very sinister, because TikTok's end goal with this algorithm is to be able to predict your future. Say, if this user spent a long time watching this type of video, let's show him 50 more just like it. Or if he's getting bored of this, let's show him this instead. So if they can accurately predict what you'll be interested in, then they can show you the exact sequence of videos needed to keep you on the app for as long as possible. And when you combine that with just how little effort it takes to use their app and get that instant dopamine, then you'll start to see how TikTok has been able to hook an entire generation on their app. So the chances are you probably knew a lot of this already. And I think if most people had a choice, then they would voluntarily cut down on the amount of time they spent on social media in general. But you know who's blissfully unaware of all of these evil strategies that TikTok is using to hook people to their app? It's the 5-year-old kids with an iPad. As I said before, TikTok is already the most successful app in history. Like, last year, more people visited the TikTok web domain than Google. So if an app like that is already so successful, how does it keep on growing? The simple answer is expanding its user base to an even younger audience. Now, not taking into account just how easy TikTok's age restrictions are to bypass and how many users are lying about their age. A recent report in the UK revealed that over half of 3 to 17-year-olds are actively using TikTok. 3-year-olds are using TikTok on a daily basis. And with so many adult users complaining about the loss of their mental abilities in a phenomenon known as TikTok brain, where users have reported things like degraded memory and attention span. Imagine what that's doing to a 3-year-old's brain that is still very much growing and developing. The world is changing way too fast for our caveman brains to develop. We're not designed to be staring at screens all day. But these social medias don't care about you. They don't care about your family, your health, your happiness, your future. They only see you as a consumer, as a little statistic on their screen. And they're laughing as they see your daily time spent on their app going up to 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours a day. That is why it is your responsibility to reinforce your mind against this conditioning. Only then can you help your kids do the same. Only then can we help create a generation of mentally resilient young people. That's the future I want to see. But how exactly do we get there? How do we take the first steps to fortifying our mind? Well, first of all, delete TikTok, you dumbass. Since the data that you willingly give them is fundamental to them showing you the content that will addict you, don't give them any more data. Don't go on the app, don't give them anything to work with, just erase it. But I will admit, it is rarely as simple as that when you're trying to break a bad habit. You know, I've probably been through that cycle of deleting and re-downloading an app that I'm trying to quit like 24 times. Because wholeheartedly, it can be very difficult to quit these apps that have been designed to exploit integral parts of the human psyche. So to really follow through with it, we almost have to reset our brain's reward system, so it's not constantly seeking out the instant dopamine hits that we get from these apps like TikTok. And the best way I've found to do that through something called dopamine fasting. Now, a dopamine fast is a period of time in which we're intentionally cutting out all of those ultra stimulating activities. So that means no social media, no games, no TV, almost all technology, which seems absolutely unthinkable to most people. But if that was your first reaction, then you're probably the person who needs to do this the most. Our dopamine receptors have become so fried in this modern world that we experience near constant urges to check our phone or have something stimulating to do. But if you purposefully abstain from that, I'd say for 1 day a week work well for me. If you don't use any internet, any technology for a whole day, nothing, and you make a habit out of that, you'll eventually start to rewire your brain so you can crush those bullshit urges. But if you can't use tech for a day, what are you supposed to do instead? Go back to your roots, just like when you were a kid. Because when you were a kid, you didn't need all of this tech. You could happily get by without it. Go and explore nature. Spend time with your family, with the people that you love, and start looking at the world through the eyes of a kid again for the exciting place that it is. So one of my friends recently told me that the peak human experience in his eyes would be if we were fully present in every single moment, without any worries, without any fears, just living and treasuring every single moment as it occurs. And that's what I think everyone should aspire to get to. If you want to be a part of this movement and learn how to reinforce your mind against the modern world's conditioning, then subscribe so we can spread this message to more of the people who need it. Take care, bro. I'll see you in the next one.